This is the July 22nd, 2020 update for the garden. Other than the squash about to bloom here. And there's also another squash that I didn't catch here. It's starting to develop. And a few more female flower ovaries right here. And here. Keeping an eye on the plant closely. After you get about 2 or 3 squash per plant, then the plant directs all its energy into producing the squash, and then it dies after a while. Here is the Montana Jack squash. I only see male flowers right now. I had to trim the squash down quite a bit because, see right here, the stems were cut off because the plant was starting to crowd itself out. And let's get to the point where, come on, focus. Yeah, where are the squashes now? Vining around the bed, and I might be able to remove the fence. Right here, we have the Montana Jack intersecting with the Mandan squash vines. I might actually attempt to make an intentional cross between the two squash varieties. And the corn right here, you can see the beans underneath the corn. Come on, focus. There they are. It is starting to catch up. The beans are starting to catch up with the corn. Focus. Right there. It's getting to a point now that the corn may eventually be smothered by the beans. So I'm going to add some nitrogen supplement to the corn. Maybe some that garden fertilizer I have. Now there's something else I'm going to have to worry about for the squash though. I'll show you in a few minutes. I was surprised to see squash vine borer damage this late in the season, but it did happen. I guess I'm in a part of Ohio where there is a trace amount of a second generation of squash vine borers. I didn't know that was a thing in the Dayton area, but I guess it is. I'll show you. If you can see here, there is some evidence of a squash vine borer hole. If you see a squash vine borer, there should be a bunch of sawdust-like powder, wet powder coming out of the squash vine. I had to incise with a pair of pruning shears carefully and use a twig to pry the squash vine borer out. I killed it on spot because I didn't want the vine to get killed. Another thing I want to show you is these. Because of their placement under the leaf or on top of the leaf, I've seen a few. It is not a squash vine borer egg. They're usually laid at the base of the plants around here. What these are squash bug eggs. What happens, the nymphs hatch and then they drink the sap from the plant and leave little holes where they've drunk nectar. Not nectar, sap. They can actually spread disease easier that way, so I usually smash these eggs on spot, prevent the squash bug nymphs to hatching. There were actually a few other squash plants that had squash vine borer attack on it. This one right here, you can see the sawdust colored powder here and the obvious opening. I couldn't find the squash vine borer in time, but thankfully the plant's recovering. There's also this hole here that appears to be some sawdust-like powder at a base. I'm not able to get the squash vine borer out. I'll have to keep checking this week to make sure the plant doesn't wither and die. These are my Holmes Kousa squash. And I was surprised to find squash vine borers damaged this late in the year. Things are a little weird in this part of Ohio. I guess there are 2 generations of squash vine borers here. No, the rest of the vines look healthy other than the ones that got attacked. I do see signs of female flower ovaries here. I will hand pollinate the flowers as soon as they develop. These are not fully developed yet though. And on the other vine here, already shows a few female ovaries right about here. There's another. And as for these squash here, these are the vining yellow squash I got from Esoteric Agriculture on YouTube. I'm showing a mixed vining habits. Some of them are compact like these, almost look like a typical zucchini plant or crookneck. Not favorable for saving seeds. Probably won't select them unless they later show strong sprawling vines. What I'm looking for is these long vines here and strong tendrils. Whole purpose is for the vine to be able to climb up trellises or to have a strong resistance to squash vine borer damage. Because squash vine borers are pretty bad where I live. And also I prefer growing squash up trellis. It is also more suitable for growing in the square foot gardening method and other high intensity gardening methods that use as little space as possible. And next up, here's the beans that are also catching up with the corn in this patch. Keep a close eye on them. There's a good chance the beans here are also going to smother the corn. And let's go see the beans underneath the sunflowers. Underneath the sunflowers aren't growing nearly as fast as the ones underneath the corn. They're still quite small here. I don't know if you can see that. I'm keeping an eye on the plants. I kind of wonder whether or not I'll get any beans this year from these. Whatever happens, hopefully at least get some for seed saving and for eating. Meanwhile, of course, the sunflowers neighbor planted are still doing healthy. I'll show you the carrots. I have concern that maybe some of the carrots might wither and die like the amaranth did earlier in the year. I applied some fertilizer to the area. I am going to be thinning these out so that they don't form a tangled mess of carrot roots. And I will be keeping a close eye on them, see which roots develop and which plants end up bolting early. I prefer to have a plant that doesn't die randomly in the year and bolt and go to seed. And I'll also show you something of the mustard that ended up going to seed early. I'll show you. Hold on. Okay, here is the mustard that I planted early. It has large flea beetle holes on it. I hope they show up on camera. And it went to seed early. I am actually considering applying some fertilizer to the plants and some mulch. Hopefully that helps them, since they already started going to seed. It won't make them mature any slower than they already have. Maybe it helps them get through the hot part of the year. Nevertheless, I still planted some more mustard right here. I don't know if you can read that. Keep an eye on this. This should sprout by the beginning of next week. As soon as the plants reach a sufficient height, I should be mulching and fertilizing this area. just so the plants don't bolt like the other ones did. Well, they will, but don't bolt early. And over here are the mung beans. I still don't see any flowers here, but I'll keep an eye on the plants, along with the tomato in the center and the other beans about the same size as the ones from the sunflowers. And of course, some hot peppers that were transplanted late. Well, I don't see much else to show you. I'll be signing out. If you like this content, you can go ahead and subscribe.